The eAffect project's aim is really to transform the experience of both staff and students in relation to assessment and feedback. And at the heart of the way that we're going to transform that experience is, of course, technology. For example, through the ways we give feedback and through the ways we deliver formative assessment. We're taking a phased approach to the project. In the first year, we have been involved with 3 academic schools in the university who have carried out planning and development in relation to their activities on assessment and feedback. And we're then now going to roll out the project right across the whole university so that it will have a very wide impact. The line of approach that we take is one of appreciative inquiry, where we're actually getting staff and students to come together to talk to each other and to make sure that each understands the other's point of view on assessment and feedback. Sometimes we find, for example, that staff believe they've given feedback, but students haven't perceived it as feedback. So we need to get down to the bottom of this and work out how each party sees assessment and feedback and come together to deliver a much transformed assessment and feedback experience.
So before the appreciative inquiry, there was a baseline where we looked at practices and processes around assessment in the school. Particularly interesting there was seeing the views of staff and students, and we also found the timelines very useful because they told us what we were doing and when. For the appreciative inquiry itself, it became clear to us that what we needed was more dialogue around assessment in the school, and so we focused on consistency and transparency in feedback in our action plan.
Our action planning addressed developments across the programme threads. We asked ourselves what the students with poor to middling performances often do and how can we get them to reflect on what they have done. Redesigning assessment, providing additional support materials, creating opportunities for feedback and for students to act on that feedback. All of those activities address the educational principles.
When we in Linguistics and Phonetics saw question mark in action, we immediately recognised its potential for training, assessing and giving targeted feedback to students. It has re-energised our teaching, there's no doubt about that.
And once we as medievalists realised the potential of question mark, we decided to use it for some of our exercises as well.
I found that by using online submission and marking, we are better able to manage time during a very heavily pressurised marking period. We can now devote more time to the provision of feedback than simply to processing the materials. That obviously helps to improve the quality of the feedback.
And as a marker, I can say that some of our colleagues are finding it quite difficult to begin with to read on screen, but I'm one of those colleagues who've been reading material on screen or on iPads for years for research purposes. So for me it's quite nice to use e-marking with the same workflow that I use for research, which in turn then improves the feedback quality.
Sometimes when I would get an assignment, I wouldn't know how to begin or I wouldn't know how to structure my report, which would mean that I would procrastinate or I wouldn't focus on the right areas. The material that I'm developing is designed to help students know how to start the report, how to structure it, what areas that they should be focusing on, and most importantly, how to reference it correctly so that they get the most marks out for the effort that they're putting in.
Academics had an input into the initial project bid. The result, I think, then, is an approach which respects the autonomy of the schools while keeping us all moving in a common direction that in turn is supported by the central services.
It has been challenging at times, and sometimes it's been very hard work. We've had quite a number of new staff join us this year, and it's been particularly useful to involve those new staff and existing staff in our dialogue with students about the assessment and feedback exchange.